Coming up on this tutorial, Introduction to XNA, installation, downloading, and starting your first project. Hello and welcome to the first XNA tutorial. There's not going to be any PowerPoint slides because we're just going to do an introduction on the tutorial series, how to download XNA, how to install it, how to get it running, and opening your first project, and just skimming through the coding in there. So we're not going to go in depth on the coding. We'll save that for next tutorial, and then tutorial 3, and then a few other ones will be an express tutorial through C#. So make sure you watch those before we continue the XNA tutorial. Just to give you a brief and quick introduction to C#. So before we go into the coding, you need to, of course, download XNA, and before you need to download that, you need to download Visual C# Express Edition. So go to mstn.com/vstudio/express, and that'll take you to the Visual Studio Express page. Then go to Game Development, and then at the very bottom you'll see C#, C++, and Visual Basic. You want to download C#, and go down a little bit, and then you'll see you can select your language, then click Go. This will download a downloader. It's about 2 or 3 megabytes, and it's an executable that will download a downloader. It's just a file that will download the full thing. The full thing is about 80 megabytes with the SQL server, and I recommend you get that too, just to be safe. And scroll down a little bit more, and then you'll get the Service Pack 1s. In the middle one you have C#. You need to download that, download and install this after you downloaded and installed Visual C#. And then you can get this if you wish, but this is just for Windows Vista. If you don't have Vista, you don't need to get this. And that's about it for that page. So once you get that done and everything installed in C# running fine, you want to download and install XNA Framework and XNA Game Studio Express. So go to mstn.com/XNA. That'll take you to the XNA page. And in here, if you watch this now, when I release it, at the top you'll see XNA Game Studio Express 1.0 refresh now available. You click that, and that'll take you to the downloads page. You want to download the framework first, so click that, download that, run it. It requires .NET Framework 2.0 and the latest version of DirectX 9. Again, if you're on Vista, you'll have DirectX 10, so you're safe. And you should have .NET 3.0 already on your computer, so you do not need to do that if you're on Vista. After you download it and run that, you can download the Game Studio Express. And download and run that. That will require C# installed and the C# Service Pack 1 installed too. So after you get these downloaded, pause the video, download these, install them, and resume the video once you're done. Now once you get those downloaded and installed, you'll be ready to go, and this is the actual Game Studio Express. It looks just like C#, so don't be concerned that you open the wrong thing. It's exactly C#, just XNA Game Studio Express running in the background. So for the rest of this tutorial, we're just gonna look at the Create a Project window, and let's just talk a little bit about what these are. Of course, our basic C# stuff like Windows application, console application, and all the other stuff. But then we have XNA stuff all after this. We have a Windows game, which is basically a game for your Windows machine. Windows Game Library, an Xbox 360 game. That's what you can make for the Xbox 360. In order to do that, you need the XNA Creators Club, which is 50 for 4 months and 100 for a year. And you can get that and program it on your computer and then send it to your Xbox, and then you can play it. And then you can also distribute it for people who have the Creators Club too, so they can play it on the Xbox. And then they provided for you the space for Windows StarterKit. It's a full game. It has full source code, so you can just look at the code or build on top of it however you want. So what we're going to do for the rest of this tutorial is create a Windows game and then show you a brief intro to the coding involved in the XNA. So select Windows game and then let's call it XNA tutorial. And that'll take a few minutes to create, so I'm going to pause the video. Okay, now once that's done, you'll have full source code on a very basic game that just opens a window and draws blue. That's all the game will do for now. You're going to have to build on top of it to get your game to work. So let's just walk through that. At the very top, you'll see a using statements around a black box. So you click the plus by there, and then it'll bring up all the using statements involved in your game1.cs code. This is basic for all C# programs, and this is basic for all XNA programs. So you just combine the two because you're doing C# and XNA. Next you have a namespace. This is basically a project saying this class involves with this namespace. Then you have a class, which is, we'll go more in depth on that in the C# Express tutorials. And that will inherit from a class that's in the XNA framework, and the class is called game. So this class will inherit from that class, and you can tell it inherits it from the colon. Then we declare two variables, graphics device manager, and we call it graphics. And then we have a graphic and a content manager, and that's called content. Inside of our constructor, we initialize graphics and content. Then we have an initialize method, and they are very good at providing you the comments to make you understand what each method is due and what you need to do to it. Like it tells you to add all of your initializing logic here. So this is where you put your initializing stuff, like storing a sprite inside of a variable. Everything goes in this initialize. Next is load graphics, and then you basically load any graphics resource management mode, and it'll automatically content. Then you load any manual content in here. And then you basically just do the same thing for unload graphics content. This is basically clearing your memory and clearing all the resources you have used during your code. This is basically initializing all the resources in your code. Then you have an update method, and this is where you put your game update. What a game update will do, and this method will do, is let's say you want to move your sprite from one position to another. That's what you'll do in your update method. Or you want to get your key presses for this particular frame. That's what you're going to do in the update method. Then we have a draw method, and I talked to some people that got into game programming, and they had the same idea that I did, that games actually force stuff to move, but it's basically very simple to understand how a game works. What a game does is it draws a window, like this window, and it clears everything. in the window. Then it draws a background color. It's currently set to cornflower blue. And then it redraws all of our sprites and everything. Then the next frame, it'll clear everything back, draw cornflower blue, and then redraw everything. So it's basically a static image being redrawn. Position changes, the sprite rotation changes. It gives us the illusion that stuff is in motion, just like movies. It's all still pictures, but it's running at 29 frames per second, and it gives us the illusion that stuff is moving. So that's basically how games work, and we do all that stuff in here. So when you're writing a game, remember that you need to draw the sprite and make sure that it draws properly after it clears. So we'll go more in depth on that later. So this program will run, if you press F5, it'll run, and it'll only be a window with a blue background. And whatever you named it will be the title. So for now, just look at the code and just get a feel on how XNA works. If you want to take it a step further, make a new project and do Spaceforce Starter Kit. And that'll take a while to load, so I'll pause the video and let it load. So after that loads, it'll bring up a Spaceforce Starter Kit HTML file. It gives you an introduction to the whole project, and it gives you the goals of it, and how to get started with it, how to build it, how to play it, and then how to extend it, so you can build on top of it. But if you want, just walk through the code, open up a file or two, and just look at how stuff will work. But it will be very advanced, so don't get pulled away from how difficult it looks. In the whole XNA series will make you step further and further up to make games like this. I'm gonna tell you how to draw one thing, then go from there. How to draw multiple things, go from there. How to move them, and it's just gonna be a step-by-step process. But this is a full game if you wanna be interested on how the whole XNA will look when it's finished. You can walk through this code and just take a quick view of it. So the next tutorial will be an introduction to an Express tutorial through C#. That'll last about 3 tutorials. So about tutorial 5 will be the first XNA tutorial. So I hope to see you next time.